Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Johnny here, and today we're talking about Dispatch, a game that hit so hard that it's pretty much shaped the entire dialogue around narrative in games this year, and in my opinion, would probably deserve the Best Narrative Game of the Year award. We'll see if they get it. I hope they do, honestly, but I want to walk you through why I think it hit so well in what it tried to do, and kind of where it was coming from, and maybe where these games will go in the future as a result. So to kind of take a step back, for a lot of us going into Dispatch, our expectations were surrounding the Telltale games, right? That's more or less our starting point and our basis for comparison in a lot of these cases. And I think a lot of people worried that when they removed the walking around bits from Telltale games, that some magic was gonna be lost and the baby would be thrown out with the bathwater, however that saying goes. But actually, nothing of value was lost, in my opinion, with getting rid of those awkward walking bits where you're just probing around trying to interact with stuff awkwardly, and inevitably just felt really slow and clunky. I never really particularly enjoyed those segments anyway, so I think actually it was a really genius move to, and maybe a ballsy one, to get rid of those gameplay elements. So then what are you left with, right? If you don't have those walking around bits, well, you have all these mini games that they created and they added. So the Dispatch minigame, where you're sending people around based on their abilities and strengths, turned out to be really good. And I think a lot of us would play a kind of endless roguelite version of that. I think that could be really fun. I hope they do something like that in the future, maybe as a spin-off or a DLC. But that minigame really worked, and I think it connected with a lot of people. And then in that, you have lots of other mini games with, you know, the hacking and different stuff like that. So the gameplay was fun and innovative in that sense, or at least new, right? So that was fresh, and it just fit the narrative of the game so well with the comedic, you know, superhero dispatch angle. You're not really the hero doing the action for a lot of the time. You're actually the one sort of coordinating that. So that really fit too. And then when you look at other elements of these games, first of all, does your choice matter? That's a really interesting thing that also goes into replayability, right? Because if your choice doesn't matter, then there's no reason you would want to replay the game, because the outcomes are going to be the same. So in the two playthroughs that I did, there were some really impactful choices. I would say it's not an insane amount of choices that really matter in the game, but there are enough of them that will warrant a second playthrough. Maybe not a third, but I think a second playthrough a lot of people will be inclined to do. That's what I did, and I got well worth my time out of that, right? So I actually got some really interesting different outcomes. There's plenty of different dialogue as well that you get with some different paths you can take. So I think they did that pretty well. Now, could they take it to the next level? Could they make it so you want to play it 3-4 times? Yeah, I think they can in the future. Does this game present you with the opportunity and incentive to play it that many times over? Probably not. I think like a 2 playthrough is kind of what most people are gonna look at. But honestly, for a game like this, I'm impressed. That's already more than what I felt in a lot of the Telltale games. Let's be honest, in those games, even though they keep saying this character will remember this or blah, 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 like your choices ultimately, you might have one pivotal one in those games that will, you know, have a big impact. But for me, a lot of times, I just didn't feel like I wanted to replay those games. It's just a reality for me. Maybe you disagree. Let me know in the comments. I also felt that the pacing was really good. So something that a lot of those games suffered from, like the Telltale games, was pretty awful pacing in some of them. Some were great. But it's hard to land, and I think for a lot of the episodes, they did land a really good pacing with between the gameplay, the story, and then how the story is presented had snappy pacing, right? I really respected your time and had a really tight presentation in a lot of it. Now, it's not perfect in all the episodes. I will say some episodes are just perfectly, scripted and just tight in how they deliver it. And some are a bit more loose or maybe not as packed. But I would say overall they landed a pretty good pacing for the entire game. And that's honestly really tricky. I think that's where the magic is with this game, is that every episode does hit pretty hard. And a part of that too is the music, guys. I see a lot of people disregarding this aspect or not talking about it in all their previews, reviews and stuff. But this game has amazing music. And it really helps some of these story beats land and kind of give you that time to absorb stuff with some awesome music. I will just say that. I won't go into too much more detail. I really want people to just experience the game without me kind of breaking down stuff in too much detail. That would give you spoilers. But I'll just say I felt it was a fantastic music choice throughout. There is also my favorite karaoke moment in any game ever. And that's a pretty high bar when you look at some of those Yakuza games and stuff. They had some great karaoke moments too. But just believe me, guys, go into this and have a blast. There's some great moments, some great banter and bonding between characters as well. The writing is fantastic in this, right? And some of the characters are just my favorite in maybe any game ever. I could say that about at least one character. So I'll leave it there, but I would love to hear from you. If you've played the game, what was your favorite character? And was there an interesting choice you made in the game? For me, I won't go into too much details here, but I will say one choice was really tough for me in the game in terms of who I chose to prioritize in a certain situation. So with that, I'll leave you. Let me know what your thoughts are. I would love to see Dispatch win the award for Best Narrative. I think they deserve it. Those are kind of my reasons. Let me know if you agree, disagree. But as always, let's have a discussion in the comments. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.